Hello, English learners. Are you ready to improve your skills today? Let's go, guys. Okay, part 1, talking about my day.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into something pretty essential today, especially if you're trying to, get a grip on those daily English conversations. It's something we all do every single day, but maybe haven't thought about too much in terms of how we talk about it.
Right, talking about your day, your routine. Seems simple, right?
Yeah, exactly. You'd think so. But for English learners, especially at the beginner level, sometimes even the simplest things can feel, well, a bit tricky.
Yeah, for sure. That's why we're going to break it down.
Exactly. Yeah. We're going to give you the tools, the vocabulary, the sentence structures, all that good stuff so you can confidently talk about your day in English.
And we've got a bunch of resources we've been looking at that are specifically designed for A2 level learners. So that's like the elementary stage. So don't worry. If you're just starting out, we've got you covered.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
All right. So let's start with the morning. I mean, what's the first thing you do when you wake up?
You wake up,
Right.
obviously. But how do you say that in English? I wake up.
Right. Nice and simple.
Ah,
Then you probably get up out of bed.
I get up.
Easy. And then it's probably time for some of those essential morning things like brushing your teeth,
I brush my teeth.
washing your face,
I wash my face.
and, of course, breakfast.
Gotta have that breakfast. I have breakfast.
Right. Super important to fuel up for the day. So we've got the morning routine down. What happens next? Usually it's off to work or school for most people.
Exactly. I go to work or I go to school.
And depending on what you do, you might have a lot of studying to do, or maybe you're already working.
Yeah, so you could say I study or I work.
And, of course, got to squeeze in some lunch somewhere.
For sure. I have lunch.
And the afternoon is probably more of the same, either more work or more studying.
Right, more of the same. Now, as the day starts winding down, you probably head back home.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Go home. And then it's probably dinner time.
I have dinner, maybe with family, maybe with friends, or maybe solo.
Right. And then after dinner comes the fun part, relaxing.
Yeah.
What do you usually do to unwind?
Oh, so many options. I might watch some TV or read a book.
Me too. Or maybe listen to some music or go for a walk, whatever helps you chill out.
Yeah, just relax. And finally, when you're all tired out, it's time for bed.
It's time to hit the hay. I go to bed.
Perfect. So we've gone through a whole day, step by step.
But how do we put all these actions together into actual sentences? Like, how do we say when we do these things?
Well, a really simple and useful structure is subject plus verb plus time.
Okay, like, I wake up at 7 o'clock.
Exactly. And you can just change the verb and the time to talk about different activities, like I have dinner at 6 o'clock.
I go to bed at 11 o'clock. Easy peasy.
And if you want to talk about two things that happen one after the other, you can use and to connect them.
So you could say, I have breakfast and then I go to work.
Or I go to school and then I study.
And then is another handy word for showing the order of things.
Right. So you could say, I finish work, then I go to the gym.
Or I have dinner, then I watch a movie.
Perfect. Now let's see if we can put all this together to talk about specific things we do during the day. So for example, what do you usually eat for breakfast?
Oh, I'm a simple guy. I usually just have cereal and milk. So I could say, in the morning, I eat cereal and drink milk.
Nice and simple. What about work? What kind of things do you do at work?
Well, I spend a lot of time on my computer,
Yeah.
answering emails, writing, researching, the usual stuff.
Right. So you could say something like, at work, I answer emails and write.
Exactly. And how about you? What do you do to relax in the evening?
Oh, in the evening, I like to unwind with a good book.
Me too. So
Yeah.
you could say, in the evening, I read a book.
Or if you're more of a movie person, you could say, in the evening, I watch a movie.
Right. So many ways to talk about the things you do. And we've also been using these time phrases like in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening.
Yeah, those are super helpful for giving a general sense of when things happen. And we've also been using a clock for specific times.
Right. Like I wake up at 7 o'clock or
Okay.
I have lunch at 1 o'clock.
Exactly. Now, what happens if someone asks you about your day?
Oh, good question. Like what if they ask, what do you do in the morning?
Well, you could simply answer with something like, in the morning, I get up, I have a shower, and I eat breakfast.
Or if they ask, what time do you go to work?
You could say, I go to work at 9 o'clock.
Easy peasy. So we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we have. We've gone through some of the most common vocabulary for talking about daily routines, from waking up to going to bed. We've looked at simple sentence structures, how to use and then to connect actions, and how to talk about specific activities and time. We've even touched on asking and answering simple questions about your day.
Phew, that's quite a bit. But the key takeaway here is that it doesn't have to be complicated.
Right. Even with just a few basic words and phrases, you can start describing your day in English.
Exactly. And the best way to get comfortable with these phrases is to practice.
Absolutely. Think about your day today or tomorrow and try to put these phrases into practice.
Yeah, even if it feels a little awkward at first, the more you use them, the more natural they'll become.
Right. And as a little challenge, think about this. What's one thing you do every day that we didn't mention?
Ooh, good one.
Yeah.
Maybe you can try looking up the English word for that action. Keep that in mind, and until next time, keep practicing and have a great day.
See you next time.
Part 2. Let's talk about food.
Okay, so we're back and diving right back into food.
Jumping right back in where we left off last time with our talk about my day.
Yeah, my day, yeah.
Thinking about how food just sort of threads through our whole day.
Yeah, and that's actually what I wanted to pick up on.
Oh?
Because just thinking back on that conversation,
Yeah.
it really struck me how present food is like, it's this constant hum,
Yeah.
kind of in the background of our
It
day.
is.
And we're engaging with it, multiple times a day.
Many, many times.
And often without even really thinking about it.
Yeah.
So why do you think something so fundamental can feel so routine?
Well, I think in some ways it speaks to just how good our brains are at making things automatic.
You're interesting.
Those sort of repetitive tasks.
Right.
Eating is definitely one of those things.
Yeah.
And just imagine if we had to stop and consciously decide every single aspect of every single meal,
Oh, gosh.
we'd be exhausted.
Yeah. Decision fatigue.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's part of it. Our brains are really good at just putting things on autopilot.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we have these two levels to our relationship with food then.
Okay.
There's the autopilot routine side of things.
Right.
But then there are those moments where we actually have to make a choice.
We do?
Like, what am I going to eat?
Yeah, what am I going to eat?
And those choices can vary wildly, right?
Absolutely.
One day it's a carefully planned meal. The next day it's whatever's quickest.
Exactly. And I think what gets really interesting is how those two levels actually kind of play off each other.
Oh, okay.
Because our routines, our autopilot routines, can really shape those choices more than we realize.
Oh, interesting.
Like you think about that coffee stop you always make on the way to work.
Yeah.
Or that same sandwich you grab for lunch.
Right.
Those become defaults. And over time, they really influence our overall, eating habits.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's kind of what I was getting at, because
Yeah.
it might seem like just these small individual decisions,
Right.
But when you start to look at them, you zoom out a bit, they paint this bigger picture
They do.
about our lifestyle, our priorities.
Absolutely.
Even our social lives. I mean, think about how many times we get together with people
Yeah.
and food is involved.
It is always there.
It's like a fundamental way that we connect.
I think food is so much more than just fuel.
Right.
It's really tied up in our culture, in our social fabric.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I mean, specific foods are part of celebrations, traditions, even expressions of identity.
That's true.
So that simple act of eating becomes this way to reinforce cultural norms and to build community.
So thinking about our listener out there,
Yeah.
navigating their own daily routines,
Yeah.
what's the key takeaway here?
For me, the biggest thing is just bringing a little bit of awareness to those routine moments. It's not about changing everything you eat overnight,
Right.
but it's just about pausing every now and then and asking yourself why you're making the food choices you are.
Okay.
Like, what's driving that decision? Is it hunger? Is it convenience? Is it just habit, or is it something else?
Yeah, so it's not about judgment. It's just about understanding.
Exactly.
So it's about taking those unconscious decisions
Right.
and bringing them into the realm of conscious thought,
Yeah, just shine a little light on them.
even just for a moment.
Yeah, and when you do that, you start to understand the role that food plays in your life.
And it goes beyond just satisfying hunger.
So much more. Yeah,
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
we have.
We've continued this conversation about food.
Picking up where we left off with my day.
Right, from my day.
Exactly.
And really looked at this sort of regularity, this
Yeah.
constant presence of food,
The always there-ness of it.
but also the complexity that underlies our relationship with it.
It's a fascinating thing when you start to peel back the layers.
It really is. And I hope this gives everyone listening something to think about.
You too.
As you go about your day, how do your own activities and routines
Right.
intersect with the food that you eat?
It's a constant interaction.
It is, and it's worth exploring.
It is.
Well, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
If you get something from my video, like and subscribe for more podcasts.